pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll with Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Echo Delta nominal.
Flight outside SC off. Say again, SC off. Off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
All right, folks, you know the drill. You know what we're going to be saying at the end of this weekend concerning rocket launches? Probably not. It's that we don't need any more of these. John Galloway for NASASpaceflight here, coming at you live with another Starlink launch. We are at Kennedy Space Center down at Cape Canaveral today. SpaceX has a Falcon 9 out there with some internet satellites on board. I didn't even have to ask you. Look at all the 5x5s in chat. Of course, the NASA Spaceflight team will be here answering questions before the launch, and we will be taking questions in chat. Make sure you tag us at NASA Spaceflight, handy dandy questions software that some of the other fine folks who are on comms with me will be helping out with. So let's go ahead and do that and get some introductions made, starting in no particular order. Out in the field today, Julia Bergeron. Julia, do we have you on comms?
Why, hello there. Yes, you do. And good morning, everyone. It is a very sunny day in Florida, and I'm excited to bring you a launch from 39A. So let's talk.
All right, Julia, we're going to turn you up a little bit there because you were coming in a little bit quiet now. But Julia has rolled out and is actually at the press site, joined by Mr. Thomas Berghardt. Thomas, do we have you on comms?
You do indeed. How you doing, Das?
I'm doing good today. Let's see. Your name starts with what? A T. A, B, C, D, E, F.
In fact, it does, Das. And it's good to be back here at the press site for a Starlink launch today and the first of a very busy weekend.
All right. So Thomas, again, is out there at the press site. And speaking of busy weekends, we've got quite a few launches on both coasts. Regardless of which coast you think is best, we'll have some action all over the place this weekend. But Thomas, thank you so much for rolling out. We'll be crewing a camera out there for us today. And then also in the field, but not on commentary, we've got Mr. Stephen Marr. You've seen Stephen's awesome photos on Twitter. He is one of our launch photographers who is very prolific around the Cape. There's his information up there as well. Back in the studio with me, I am joined by Mr. Nick Answini. Nick, how do you sound?
I hopefully sound really good right now and totally awake because, you know, sleep is a thing these days. Hi, how are y'all doing? Another rocket launch, another day over at the Cape, huh?
I appreciate that, Nick. When Nick first checked into comms, he was like, "Good morning, I'm here." And I was like, "Okay, I think your mic is okay, but I also think you're tired." So Nick
Sleep is for the weak.
Nick will be joining us here on commentary as well. So let's go ahead and start talking about what the mission is. Who's got a recap of what we're expecting from today's launch?
I think that falls in my wheelhouse here, Das.
Yeah.
So today's launch has actually got a couple big milestones. The biggest one, like we mentioned, this is a Starlink mission. There are 53 satellites on board. But the big milestone that SpaceX is hitting today is this booster, which is booster 1060, is making its 13th flight ever. This is the first time that a SpaceX Falcon 9 will fly a 13th mission. In addition to that milestone, this is the 50th ever launch from SpaceX from 39A. So that goes all the way back to the CRS-10 mission many years ago. In addition to that milestone, today's flight will be the 100th reflight of a Falcon 9, or Falcon total, I should say. That includes Falcon Heavy boosters, my apologies. And then finally, if today's landing is successful on a shortfall of gravitas downrange, it will be the 50th consecutive successful landing of a Falcon vehicle. So a lot of milestones on the line today as SpaceX continues to use these Starlink missions to push reusability milestones and expand the reuse envelope for these boosters. But of course, on top of all of that, the primary purpose of the mission is 53 more Starlink satellites in the Group 4-19 mission, headed to low Earth orbit, still continuing to fill that fourth shell of the Starlink constellation.
All right, excellent. How's the weather looking at? Do we have like a go, no-go weather PGO, PVO, whichever one we want to call it today?
Yeah, sure. We have a 90% go prediction from yesterday for window. And here at the press site, the weather looks like it's going to cooperate. They have gotten already into the launch auto sequence, so propellant loading is underway. And that coincides with a wonderful day out today. Some partly cloudy skies, but other than that, a very light breeze. And for the most part, don't see any weather systems here that should interfere with today's launch.
Excellent. And I've cut over to Fleet Cam really quickly. You can see that partly cloudy skies up above Port Canaveral in the Cape there in the background. That Fleet Cam is over at Rusty's Seafood and Oyster Bar. I'll see if we can get a view of the launch from that today. But much closer over there at the press site, right there is the view of 39A. Now, I'm wondering, we know that there's a lot of other interesting stuff happening around 39A. Do we see anything different about 39A in this shot today?
I'm not sure
Ooh.
you can quite make it out, but I do know exactly what you're talking about. Unfortunately, there's some buildings in the way.
Oh,
Bummer.
But if
I
you
mean-
caught our either live coverage that we put on Starbase Live or the recording that we published shortly after, you know that the first segment of the Starship orbital launch tower is now at 39A, and so they're going to get ready to stack that on top of the base in the coming days, and that is the beginning of construction of that tower that will be used to launch and catch Starships and Super Heavies here from Kennedy Space Center.
excellent. I'm looking here, and I thought I might have been wrong there. There's like a yellowish thing sticking up that I don't recall usually being there. Over to the right of the Falcon. Is that just my eyes playing tricks on me, or is that
I know what that
something?
is. I know what that is.
I don't think your eyes are playing tricks on you, Das. I do remember in our last flyover, we did see a base for a very special crane, and I do believe that that crane is being stacked now.
Ooh,
Aha.
Ooh,
that's
And
kind of
by now we
exciting.
mean, like not
Not right
Yeah,
now.
because that rocket's
Yeah.
getting propellant loaded, but
Well,
like now, like
okay.
these days.
I
Important
wonder-
Okay,
clarification.
Thomas, I'm willing to bet you though that once that rocket leaves that pad and it's all clear, they'll be out there working again because
Yep, you
lights
bet.
do come on at night, and I'm betting you there's a fast and furious pace going on.
Yeah. I wonder if that's the first time that crane crew has had to like, okay, sorry, you can't work on Friday because they're going to be controlling an explosion very close to where you're assembling that crane.
That's definitely a unique challenge, I'm sure.
And perhaps for
Alright.
the that crew out there, this might be the first orbital launch they see, because they've seen a lot of testing down in Boca Chica. But if these are folks from Boca, they'll get a treat today.
Excellent. We've got some super chats coming in here. Again, we're able to keep doing what we do because of y'all's support. I mean, you show up, we like do a tweet and you retweet it, you like and subscribe or whatever. And the super chats are definitely a way that allow us to continue to afford to bring you these, I guess, space adjacent experiences. That's a rocket launch today, but Musical Wolves, we always see your name in the queue there. Thank you so much for the $5. Could this internet rocket get the Starlinks to the moon, or is that something that Starlink or Starship actually would be needed for? Oh, can you fit SLS in the frame too? Oh, those are all interesting questions.
Yeah, unfortunately, not allowed to show SLS because we are here for a SpaceX media event, not a NASA media event. We'll reserve the SLS coverage for an SLS media.
Wow, you can't even
Mm-mm.
talk about SLS, it sounds like.
Yeah, they're just cutting him right off there. SLS.
Yeah, Thomas,
uh-oh.
we got a little bit of robot from you there. But to explain what Thomas was saying, when we come through, we're usually badged for certain events. And when you are badged for, say, a SpaceX event like this non-NASA mission, Starlink is not a NASA mission, the rules are generally that you can't show other things that aren't related to what you're badged for. So if we could see SLS from Fleet Cam or some other public area, we could use that camera, but it is against the rules for Thomas to point the camera at things that aren't related to why he's been badged to be there. Yeah. So
Hey,
they caught him
am
saying
I
SLS.
back? Am I
You're
good
back.
now?
Yeah. Just
All
don't
right, cool.
mention
The
don't
ITAR
mention
police
the orange
caught up to
rocket.
me clearly.
Yeah.
But never mind. Thank you for taking over, Das.
Yeah, we gotcha. So Musical Wolves, thank you so much for that. Could the internet rocket get the Starlinks to the moon? I don't believe Falcon 9 could actually get that done, right?
Well, okay. If you put way less Starlink satellites on it, you probably could.
Ah.
So yeah, if Starlink satellites are were needed beyond low Earth orbit, you would just need to launch less at a time or use Starship or Falcon Heavy.
Gotcha. Okay. So potentially, the question is, how many Starlinks do you want to try and get over to the moon?
Right.
But even if it's like 0.25 of a Starlink, it's like families have 2.3 kids. Like, wait, what? How do you get 0.3 of a kid? Anyways,
Averages.
averages. How do they work? Musical Wolves, thank you so much for the support there. Westy the Third with 5 curly L's for the NSF Coffee Fund. Thank you, Westy, for the support. Moldy Space Industries tossed some hashtags in here. Let me make sure they're all appropriate. Hashtag Thomas Fan Club. Okay, good. Yeah, that one's okay. Internet Rocket at Reasonable Times Fan Club.
That's also true. That's always appreciated.
All right, and then Ultima says, "Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire." Well, now we're gonna get copyright struck. You got me, Ultima. I appreciate the. I don't think that I'm good enough for that to get picked up by the automated filters. Appreciate the support. And then Rough Riders, last question here in the super chat queue: does SpaceX have to pay insurance with launching Falcon 9s right next to a multi-million-dollar crane? Now at 39A. Oh. And happy Father's
that's a good
Day to the
question.
dads out there. Yeah.
Huh.
Wow.
I mean, I'd imagine so. They seem pretty well insured as far as what we've seen them have to insure. What is it?
Yeah.
Quarter of
Wonder
a,
if
or half $500 million for Starbase? Like if they're having to insure that much, I'm sure there's some insurance going on over at the Cape.
I wonder, like I imagine, like you get insurance on the crane, you have the stuff. If something happens while you're there, certainly it's got to be insured by somebody. And I wonder if you have to pay more if the place where you're putting together the big fancy crane is like right next to an orbital launch pad.
Well,
I don't know
Well,
the answer.
then that makes me wonder too, like what is what is in the contract for even something, let's say they're leasing 39A. So what if the unthinkable happens and there's damage to the pad? Is it one of those deals where if you give the pad back, you have to give it back in a certain condition? So now I'm curious.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good
I don't-
question.
It's one of those things, like SpaceX isn't going to officially tell us. I don't know if that could be sourced from like a NASA document somewhere in their agreement with the use of 39A or whatever. I don't know. Like, could you freedom of information it to figure out how much insurance there is on the crane? But not typically the type of thing that SpaceX would, put out a statement on or anything. So good question. Not always able to answer them directly, but let's do that. Nick and Thomas, let's see if we can't grab some more questions out of the regular queue and
Yeah.
see what we got going on.
So just shoot up any questions you have at us and tag us at NASASpaceflight so we can see them. Peter has a great question here, which I'd love to ask here. He asks, how many shells are there and how many satellites each? Obviously, we're talking about seashells here, so this is a question for anyone who's been around the beach around the Space Coast. How many seashells are at the Space Coast?
Lots of seashells.
Lots. Okay.
But I'm just going to take a slightly different angle to this question and see what if they're talking about Starlink constellation shells?
That makes sense.
And in that case, the answer, there will be 5 shells total. And the exact numbers I know for a fact are in our launch article on NASASpaceflight.com. I don't have that in front of me because I'm busy looking at cameras and a rocket. But there are 5 shells, and this is the first shell is more or less completely filled, and this is now the 4th shell that they're really focusing on. There are a couple satellites in shells 2 and 3 for from like rideshare opportunities that they had to start putting up a couple like prototype satellites for shells. But for the most part, shells 1 and 4 are the ones that have started to get filled up. In total, we're in the realm of 2,000 to maybe we're getting close to 3,000 satellites total in orbit now, but I'd have to go back and check the actual numbers.
I think the real question is, if you hold a Starlink shell up to your ear, do you get better internet reception?
We can only assume so.
And really quickly, this one came in as soon as I finished the super chat queue. Robert Hobson dropping a bomb in the super chat queue, $199.99. Super chat
Whoa.
says, got off work early for the long weekend. A rocket launch is a great start. Good old Bob Hobb.
Wow.
Can I use Jack's name there? Like Jack's? Robert, talk to me in Discord if you don't want me to call you Rob Hobb, if that's just like a Jack thing. But thank you so much for the support. That is nothing to sneeze at. That is ridiculously generous. One of
Always
the
appreciate it.
reasons.
Thank you so much.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
One of the
wow.
reasons we can keep doing this. So generous. Oh gosh. Let's keep going with some questions here. We're coming up on 20 minutes to launch, so be on the lookout for that T-minus 20-minute vent. But Nick and Thomas, y'all keep going.
Yeah, and definitely want to remind everyone to tag at NASASpaceflight for these questions. That's the best way for us to easily see them here. Here's a question. Let's see if I can pull this one up. From Christ Renaissance, he asks, when can we expect SpaceX to fly the regular 60 Starlink satellites on Falcon 9? Because they used to do that, right?
They did, and the reason they stopped is because the new satellites are actually slightly heavier. The new satellites have those extra laser satellite or inter-satellite links. I hope I got the words in that right. These new version 1.5 satellites have a little bit of extra hardware on board, and so the satellites are slightly heavier, and as a result, they can only launch 53 on these nominal missions. Sometimes that number gets adjusted further if there's a rideshare payload or if they're going on a weird orbital insertion profile. But they will likely not get back to 60 satellites on Falcon 9 because of the new satellites that are slightly heavier.
Interesting. Good to know. I guess, yeah, it makes sense if they add more hardware, it would be difficult to have all of those going. So,
And
my goodness,
before
just
the next question, I
go for it.
am contractually obliged to interrupt because the T-minus 20-minute event has just started, which gives us an indication that all things are on track for our launch in just about 20 minutes from now.
Sweet. And related to that is a super chat from Tim C, who says hashtag 20-minute vent fun. Yes, it is. It's always nice to see that 20-minute vent, meaning that we're 20 minutes away from yet another candle being lit and another broomstick going up to the sky. So thank you, Tim, for the support. We appreciate that. Ron Smith coming in here asking a question, one of our super chatters, saying, mind explaining why SpaceX launches polar launches from Vandenberg versus the polar corridor in Florida?
That's also a great question. So it comes down to what the payload is what the payload actually is, because some launches, in order to get to the polar orbits, the sun synchronous orbits from Cape Canaveral, a lot of the time you have to perform a dog-leg maneuver, which means that after the stages separate, the second stage has to turn slightly farther south in order to avoid overflying populated areas down the coast of Florida. At Vandenberg, you do not have to do that. So Vandenberg is a higher performance option for those orbits. So if the payload is slightly heavier or going to a slightly higher orbit, Vandenberg will definitely be required for those missions. The polar corridor offers SpaceX some flexibility in shifting some of the lighter and easier missions here to Cape Canaveral. However, Vandenberg offers a little bit more performance, and therefore Vandenberg will always be part of their polar launch plans as far as Falcon 9 goes. It's a flexibility question as to they can use both sites.
And
Interesting.
to add to that too, when we have polar orbit from Cape, it does add a little bit more complication to the hazard zones. So then you have to keep in mind all of the cruise ships and freight traffic, as well as your pleasure boaters, and trying to make sure that our coasts are also clear. So it does get a little bit more complicated in terms of hazard zone when you launch from here.
Interesting. Thanks for that, guys. I learned something from you guys too all the time here. You guys are very knowledgeable. Appreciate it. Another super chat from Trent Thompson. He says, "Thanks for the coverage. Time off the farm for the launch. Obviously, you gotta watch the rocket launch, and thank you for that support. We really appreciate it. Helps us keep the lights on and those hungry robots fed." Marco also coming in with another super chat. They say, "Hi guys, a bit of money for some hydration. What type of computer and OS is used on the rocket? Any chance of launches over the Great Lakes? I can read." So hopefully, Thomas and Julia, you guys have plenty of hydration over there.
Hydration is always appreciated. Thank you so much. It's a hot day out here in Florida, but to answer the question, off the top of my head, and I'm going to mark this as speculation because I might be misremembering. Once upon a time, I remember hearing that at least the Merlin controllers are on like NVIDIA gaming cards. and use Linux. But that could either be outdated information or me just straight up misremembering. So that's a possibility. I think if you Google it, there's something out there talking about it. Excuse me. As far as over the Great Lakes, the second question, I know somewhere at one point there was an idea for like a small sat launch facility that would use the Great Lakes as sort of their unpopulated areas to launch over. I don't know how far that proposal is. I haven't really heard any serious talks about it. Is it theoretically possible? Sure, but I don't think it's really in any serious plans right now.
Wow. Thank you, Marco, for the support. Adam coming with another super chat saying, with the comments from Kathy Louders this week, protecting 39A, it seems SpaceX is in a tough spot for Starship at 39A. What is the contingency plan? Scrap the progress and build a different site? I love you guys. Appreciate the support, Adam.
So there's a couple different options, right? And the big thing, and so for those who may not be in the loop, NASA leadership, including Kathy Louders, this was also raised by the Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel, basically voiced the concern that SpaceX is planning to add a new launch mount to the 39A complex in order to support Starship operations. And they voiced concerns that because that vehicle is much less mature at this point, the odds of an anomaly occurring on the pad that could damage nearby infrastructure that's critical to ISS logistics, specifically commercial Crew program, because Crew Dragon launches from 39A. Those concerns were voiced to basically caution SpaceX, like, you need to make sure you're taking the appropriate actions to protect 39A and offer contingency plans. Those contingency plans could go a couple of different ways. First of all, there are other places at Cape Canaveral that SpaceX is already planning to launch Starship operations. So that SpaceX is working with NASA on environmental assessments needed to create basically a new launch complex 49, which would be to the north of 39A and 39B for Starship operations. And that's part of kind of increasing the launch cadence overall. But it also provides another launch site should 39A kind of become a no-go for any reason. They can also, of course, do the appropriate analyses and mitigations at 39A to just make sure that Starship operations are conducted safely enough that there's no significant risk to the commercial Crew program, among other things. Also, really quick, I have a friend that wants to say hi to the stream.
Oh,
World. Hope you enjoyed today's Starlink launch from historic Launch Complex 39A at 12:08 p.m. today.
Thanks, John Krause. Always appreciated. You too.
Thanks, John. We have some more member support here. We got to thank Ollie for hopping on as a new member. We really appreciate the support, and it really helps us keep the lights on here. Stefan is asking a question here. Max Q is the max aero pressure, but why is it still called out? Is it still a especially dangerous moment for the rocket?
I can't remember the last time, and this might be a jinx. I'm gonna knock on wood or something. I'm not trying to jinx anything, but off the top of my head, I do not remember the last time a failure actually occurred at max Q because of aerodynamic pressure. However, it's a worthwhile milestone because it also plays into a couple different things. It is the point where the aerodynamic stresses on the vehicle reach their peak because of the maximum dynamic pressure. And that's, again, a result of the combination of the vehicle flying faster and faster, but also flying through thinner and thinner atmosphere as it goes up. So at some point, there's a peak, and that's max Q. At that point, that is also right in the middle of what we call the throttle bucket, which is where the first stage engines throttle down to reduce those, again, as it flies through that regime. So max Q isn't only about the stresses that the vehicle is experiencing. It also gives you an idea of when those engines are throttling down and then going to throttle back up right after. So it's worthwhile to call out for that reason because the engines are doing some throttling and that affects the flight profile.
Interesting. Thanks for that support, Stefan. We really appreciate it. Mike coming in with some more support. Thank you, Mike. Didn't ask a question, but we really do appreciate the support and the love that you guys show us. It is what enables this. Same with Alexander, who is also a new member. We've got lots of new members today. Members enjoy lots of exclusive perks, including member clips and some exciting stuff that you can find out. And we do appreciate you guys. Nikons in Space asks a question. Shuttle has 135 successful missions. This is the 135th recovery attempt of Falcon 9. How soon until Falcon 9 surpasses the shuttle as the most reused spacecraft?
It's a shame we don't have someone named Chris on this stream because I know they would know the
Yeah.
answer. I know the shuttle record is in the 30s somewhere, but I don't remember the exact number. So SpaceX has a while to go for that. They're getting there, but they still need to, like somewhere around triple the current record before they beat the shuttle.
It seems like that's not really the plan for the boosters, right? Like, wasn't there news
And
about
yeah, it's very
15
possible
versus
that Falcon
20?
9 boosters, right, it's possible that Falcon 9 boosters won't actually reach that milestone. The better shot at definitely reaching one of those milestones would be the Starship program, of course.
Yeah. It looks like we've got a little bit of an update from SpaceX here via Twitter. They've shifted the T0 just a little bit. Looks like they've pushed it back a minute or so. I'm going to update the clock here. Let's see.
Yeah, that's interesting. They were already into propellant loading, but of course, if you're only adjusting by a minute, that's probably very doable. So it looks like a new tier 0 is 1209 rather than 1208. So thanks, SpaceX.
Yeah. They shifted it back by 30 seconds, it seems.
All right then.
1208.50 to 1209.20. All
Well,
right.
I apologize if that ruins anyone's Friday plans, but
Jeez. I had an appointment. Those 30 seconds were critical there. We'll update the countdown clock, add 30 seconds to it, and we are coming up on about T minus 10 minutes here. All right, let's do one more question real quick.
Absolutely. We have Stefan is also coming in with some. This is, I guess, it is slightly a question. I guess we can get it in as a technicality here. Stefan says, "Has nobody told Falcon 9 to stop that smoking and vaping is bad?" I mean, every time I see a Falcon, it's just sitting there vaping on the pad. So someone should probably go tell that. Thomas, can you take care of that for us?
yeah, I'll get right on that. I got like a 3-mile walk ahead of me, so I'll be back.
All right, well, it sounds like that was the question.
Yep, that was. You can pull up another one if.
No, we're good. As you know, folks, it does take a lot of support to keep these streams going. So I wanted to do a really quick shout out to our sponsor and partner, Brilliant.org. If you're interested in learning cool things about space and stuff like that, not just space, but all sorts of different topics, physics, mechanics, not astrology. I almost said astrology, but that's not in there. You can check out Brilliant.org for topics that are probably relevant to your interest, including they have an entire set of things about astrophysics. And if we go down here, we should see there's some information on radiation from space. A lot of different topics you can learn about, but this is relevant to our interest today because radiation from space is how Starlink satellites work. Now, I'm not sure what's going on here. I think they're going to need a larger lightning tower to deal with that lightning coming in from space. But there's all sorts of interactive lessons on Brilliant. This one has a couple quiz questions. What is it? Radiation, a helium nucleus riding the solar wind, an electron in the Earth's magnetosphere, a near-Earth asteroid, light from an incandescent light bulb. That's a question. Which do you think would not be considered radiation? Chat, what do y'all think? Help me out here. Which one of those things is not a form of radiation? I think I'm going to go with the near-Earth asteroid. Light seems like a radiation. Electron seems like that would be a helium nucleus riding solar wind. But a near-Earth asteroid, I hope that that's not a type of radiation. There are all sorts of different interactive lessons and stuff like that. The best way to learn is by doing and interacting with things. Did we get that right? I think we got that right, didn't we? What does that say? Does that say incorrect? Okay. Anyways, I'm going to have to read
learning
up on that.
platform, Das.
It is definitely a learning platform. But anyways, I'm going to figure out why a near-Earth asteroid is not a form of radiation. Maybe I read the question wrong. Chat, help me out. What did I do wrong there? Anyways, check out brilliant.org/NASASpaceflight. Links down in the description as well. Give them a click because that's another way that we help fund all the equipment and all the cool things that we're doing here to continue to bring you these live launch broadcasts. I'm going to go and figure that out because I thought for sure that an asteroid wouldn't be radiation. There's an explanation in there. I'll get back to you with the explanation. So anyways, back to the rocket. Thank you, Brilliant, for working with us.
Please do, Das, and we appreciate that support. We have another question here. Once deployed, when will they be online? I believe that they're referring to the Starlink payload satellites. I know that they have to do a little bit of a setup and configuration and move to their target orbits, right, Thomas?
Yeah, and that takes a process of a couple weeks to a couple months, depending on how exactly they need to drift to their various orbital planes and things like that. So it's a weeks to months long process for each mission, and it varies from satellite to satellite.
Okay, folks, time out. Really quickly. I figured out the problem. I was doing the talking here, and Patrick was doing the driving, and Patrick chose the incorrect answer while I said the correct answer out loud. And I was like, wait, I was sure that an asteroid wasn't a form of radiation. So that was the mix-up. We figured it out really quickly. Thanks again, brilliant. Back to the rocket.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Cool. Greg's coming in with another super chat. Thank you for the support, Greg. He asks, what would SpaceX need to add to make Slick 40 available for crewed launches?
All right, can you repeat the question? You cut out for a second, Nick.
Oh, Greg's asking what SpaceX would need to add to Slick 40 to make it available for crewed launches.
Well, first and foremost, you need a crew access tower because you need to be able to get on the rocket. So we could start there for sure. You would need, well, you could probably get away with like the suit up facilities that are elsewhere and just drive to the other pad. Crew access tower is the obvious one. There's probably some behind the scenes work that goes into things like that. That would be necessary. I don't know. You would need the transporter erector on pad 40. Would need fueling lines to, or not fueling lines, but umbilical connections and things for Crew Dragon, because the erector at pad 40 only has the fairing configuration, whereas the one at 39A can be configured for both. You would need to add that capability to the TE. Those are the two obvious things on the top of my head. There might be more behind the scenes stuff that we don't really know about.
Cool. Well, thanks.
But that does definitely tie into that earlier discussion about Starship at 39A and 39A contingencies and things like that.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Thomas, and thank you, Greg, for the support. Daniel coming in with. Go ahead. Yeah, no.
I was going to say, before we throw in another question, I just wanted to share something with y'all that you don't necessarily see behind us, behind the camera, is when you stop and look around, you can tell that everybody out here, like for instance at OSB2, they take their break and they come out on the balcony to watch launches, and you can see all the heads starting to pop out ahead of this launch. So I just wanted to share that with y'all. Everybody here likes them too.
Yeah, today's perfect for a lunch break launch. So a launch break.
Well, and because they moved it 30 seconds, it's just an extended lunch break at that point. Everyone's going to be getting away with plenty of spare time. We have a new membership from Daniel Smith. Thank you so much for that membership, Daniel. That really does help us keep the lights on around here and keep chasing some rockets. Andres asks, when, let's see, what will happen if the central Merlin stops working in flight? Sorry, I had to figure that one out mid reading there. What will happen if the central Merlin stops working mid-flight?
Well, safe to say that I don't think that's ever happened, to preface this question, but the central Merlin is the one that gimbals the most for landing purposes. So without that center engine, landing would probably be infeasible. The other 8 engines do gimbal a little bit during ascent and things. So I don't think that would negate a complete mission failure. I think the other 8 can make up for it performance-wise, but I don't think you would get the booster back.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that support, Andreas. And we have another question from Donkey Hunter and a generous super chat. Thank you so much for that super chat. They ask, when will SpaceX launch 2 Falcons at the same time? And guess what, Donkey? They've launched 3 Falcons at the same time before, a couple times.
Well, what's the definition of at the same time?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I call Falcon Heavy pretty simultaneous. But I understand the question. He's probably talking about 2 different pads.
I was not picking up what you were putting down. I got you, though, Nick. I'm there. I'm with you.
Yeah. So, are there any plans to do pretty much like concurrent
Well,
Falcon launches? They're pretty
so
regular at this point.
there's been a time where they've kind of launched within 24 hours from different pads. I think there was one where they launched one from Cape and one from Vandy pretty close to one another. Doing them both from the two Cape Canaveral pads is slightly more complicated because there are some range assets that overlap, but otherwise that's feasible. And that should tie in really quick to our preview of this weekend, where we are expecting 3 Falcon 9 launches in pretty quick succession. You have this one here is the first one, Starlink on Friday, and then Saturday, tomorrow morning, from Vandenberg, there'll be a Falcon 9 launch with the Sarah 1 mission. And then very early Sunday morning / late Saturday night, depending on what time zone you're in, there'll be another launch from here at Cape Canaveral over at Pad 40 with the Global Star payload. So that's 3 Falcon 9s back to back to back. I should also mention that right after that begins the call to stations for the SLS wet dress rehearsal here at Cape Canaveral. So that kind of caps off a very busy weekend on both space coasts, if you will.
All right, and that puts us at 90 seconds until liftoff. It looks like. Thomas, if you are ready, we're going to go ahead and start bringing up that rocket audio out there. So we will catch you
got
on
it.
the flip side for commentary. Y'all enjoy the launch out there again. Thomas Burkhart, Julia Bergeron, and Steve are all out there today at the press site. Just a minute to go before this Falcon 9 lifts off with the 53 Starlink satellites on board. All right. And that's normally what we do here, y'all. We do a lot of talking. We do a lot of question answering as we go. But whenever we get down to launch, we spool up the audio there from our cameras on site, and we will bask in the sounds of crackly rocket goodness here today, coming up in just about 30 seconds. Look at that water overflow on the tower there. That was cool for a second. I don't know if anybody noticed that.
I did. That was really cool.
Takes our 53 Starlink satellites into orbit.
We got crickets out there today, grasshoppers, it sounds like.
Lots of bugs.
5 seconds. We have liftoff. The Falcon 9 has cleared the tower. Let's wait for that rumble to reach our microphones here. Falcon 9 pitches downrange. That's as high as fleet cam goes. I tried to show fleet cam for a second, but it does not tilt up any more than that. The rocket went out of frame. Should be around max Q now, 1 minute and 30 seconds into the flight. The rumble's starting to die down there. Sometimes you get some echoes off the VAB, which is there near the press site. You can see the plume expansion now as the plume starts to spread out due to that lower atmospheric pressure. We always love pointing this out because it's a visual demonstration of the lower density of the air up there. You know, you go up a mountain and you can't breathe because there's not enough air, there's not enough oxygen density to get into your lungs and, I guess, supply your body with oxygen. Same thing up here. It doesn't really care about how much oxygen there are, but the atmospheric density is less, and it allows that plume to spread way out as it continues to go downrange. You can really see it over here on the SpaceX feed on the rocket itself. See how that fire is not going straight down away from the rocket, but it's actually spreading out. As soon as it ends, it gets past the end of that engine nozzle, it goes almost straight out the side. There's just no atmospheric pressure there to hold it into that little pencil thin flame.
Pencil flame. Pencil flame.
All
I
right.
just always get so quiet. It's just so surreal to watch that.
Yep. And looks like we've got Miko there. Should get stage separation. Yep. There is a
Nice.
stage separation and ignition of the upper stage engine. So from here on out, that booster is going to continue on its ballistic trajectory down to land, and that is a fairing separation as well. Get some grid fins deploy. You can see the stack of Starlink satellites. That's an engine. And let's see if we can't. Yeah, I know. Let's see if we can't get Thomas and crew back. What'd you think, Thomas?
That was a very rumbly liftoff, which are the best kinds of liftoffs. That was a beautiful liftoff.
Yeah, that was a beautiful liftoff. Felt that one in my chest. And guess what, guys? There were 2 dolphins just after the big rumbles that decided to come out and play right in front of us. So I think that
No
brings
way.
some really awesome luck. Oh yeah, like all that Thomas heard was dolphins. Yeah. So
I am so jealous. Oh my goodness. That's so cool.
All right. So again, this is what's happening, folks. The booster is coming down to land, and the upper stage on the right-hand side is going to continue on into space. You can see the separate telemetries for the 2 down at the bottom. Of course, that engine on the upper stage has to continue getting the stack of satellites going fast enough so that when they fall back towards the Earth, they miss. Just needs enough velocity so that the curve of gravity down towards the planet actually follows the curve of the planet itself, and that's how you stay in orbit. Very confusing. But how are we doing here, folks?
Pretty well so far. This is a 1 burn profile for the upper stage today. If you've been following a couple Starlink missions, you know sometimes they vary exactly how they reach that final orbit. The upper stage will only be doing 1 burn today prior to payload separation at about 15 minutes after liftoff, followed by a deorbit burn by the upper stage, but no big long coast phase or anything for today's mission.
All right. And again, y'all, during the critical phases of the launch here, I still see super chats coming in. There's, of course, some questions in the queue. Let's get all the way up until this engine shuts off. We'll clean up a couple of those. But thank y'all for your patience. When we do the launch and stuff, we sort of put a moratorium on answering the super chats and stuff. So 5 minutes in here. The booster is going to come down somewhere around 8 minutes. That timeline's still about the same.
Could be.
Hopefully we get nice stable video all the way down for that. Every now and then we get some hiccups on the video of the booster as it comes down. That engine bell glowing though.
It is orange.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah,
Thank you
you're
for your
welcome.
observation.
I was gonna say something more astute than that, but I'm just still mesmerized by all this stuff. I'm as big of a rocket nerd as any of them, and sometimes I just sit and drool a little bit.
Coming up with some picturesque descriptions like the glowing, rusty, burnt orange of the engine bell on the Merlin vacuum engine, like.
As the Inconel gets orange hot, it's just beautiful. Blah, blah, blah.
So we gather around the glow of the engine bell. Like, you can see some of those gas thrusters firing on the left-hand side there. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I think we need some DOS art explaining exactly where the orange part of the engine bell is, because it couldn't be too clear.
The orangey bits there. It actually glows, like when it's in the shadow. It glows a little bit. There you go.
See, isn't that a cool orange? Like, do you see why I was just like mesmerized? Because like, I don't know, it's like not backlit or front light.
What is it like staring at a campfire where it just mesmerizes you?
Kind of. It is kind of that exact similar experience.
Well,
Nick,
orange bell good.
Orange bell good. That's what y'all need
Nominal.
for those the beach campouts. You need like an
Oh,
engine
yeah,
bell there and just light the fire, the campfire on the beach down at Boca in the engine bell.
Okay, someone has to make a fire pit that looks like an MVAC engine bell, though. That has to be a thing.
Yep.
We'll get right on it.
And that would be the
Was that entry burn?
Yeah, that should be the entry burn there.
Okay.
The clouds are still small. That's how I can tell.
Yeah, unfortunately today, since it is the middle of the day, we do not get a glimpse of that entry burn from here at the press site. On a clear night, we get to see that, but I doubt now.
Yep. I can see that all the way from Charlotte sometimes. This thing goes up
wow.
the East
Yeah.
Coast, and when they're on those East Coast hugging trajectories, it lands a couple hundred miles off the coast of North Carolina. And from Charlotte, which is 100 miles inland from the coast, I can look out to the east and I can see the entry burn from, not too many trees around my house, but if I go down to the cul-de-sac, I can see that happen in the sky. From all over at night. Definitely tougher during the day. So should be coming up. See how the clouds get big, right?
Yep, I do see that.
Getting closer to the ocean. And then pretty soon it won't be clouds. It'll be like white caps of waves sometimes. Was that the landing bird through like a bank of fog or something?
Ooh.
Wow!
Wow.
That wasn't fog. That was going through a cloud.
Can't see it.
Wow.
Okay, that was cool. The effects on the ocean, clear video all the way
Wow.
through the landing.
Woo!
Wow.
That was
Okay. All right.
delicious. Wow. Good job, SpaceX. Holy cow.
I-
Sometimes you just get
I'm
blown
really
away.
jealous right now. Y'all are saying delicious, and it was really pretty. I can't see it on my screen. I'm jealous.
It was amazing. Take my
You
word
got to
for
see
it.
it in person.
Oh, thanks,
I'm
Don.
still jealous of you. Wow.
Just for that, I'm going to go have delicious ice cream after this.
Oh, there it is. Now we see it. There's a booster
Yeah,
on the
there you
drone
go.
ship.
There.
Okay.
Conversation or confirmation that it's on the drone ship.
We'll just have to go back and watch the replay, I guess.
That's a
You
good
say
a
that-
good
you s-
problem
you
to
said
have.
that like I don't watch that every day. Just go back and watch replays of Falcon 9 landings.
Well, anyway, so the first stage, so we should mark a couple milestones that just happened.
Yep.
So that was the 13th flight of Booster 1060, 13th launch, and now 13th landing. So it'll come back and get ready for Flight 14. It was also the 50th straight successful landing of a Falcon booster. So congrats to SpaceX on that milestone. That is definitely the longest landing streak that SpaceX has ever put together. Also, the successful 100th reflight of a Falcon rocket. So that's a big milestone as well. Of course, now attention does turn to the upper stage, which will be completing the mission and deploying those Starlink satellites in just a couple minutes.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, how y'all doing on time out there? We have my favorite camera view on launch day here. The empty pad over there
Oh,
at
of course,
39A.
of course.
I love to see this.
Yeah, we
because
could
that
stick around
means-
to wrap up some
Yeah, go ahead.
some super chats and things, and maybe stick around for confirmation it'll deploy if we get that at 15 minutes. I don't know if we're getting that right away, but
Yeah, I didn't
we
know
can
if
wrap
y'all
up.
were
We got
having
time.
to pack up or what the deal was. Let's run through the super chats again. We put a hold on the super chats during the launch, but Roger S 499 says my penance for missing the launch broadcast. Nice, Roger. Conservative Space Nerd, appreciate the support there as well. Gus F upgraded to a Capcom membership in the Discord program, or the membership program there. Thank you, Gus F, for the support. We've got Boaz. Have you gotten your what? All right, well, we appreciate you there, Boaz. Thank you for the support. Gip says, does the rumble die down because it's too far away or because there's no atmosphere for the sound to move through? Which happens
Ooh.
first? I actually don't know the answer for that.
Ooh.
It's a
Huh.
fascinating question. I have literally no idea.
That
I have
Oh.
no idea either. I just know that on certain days, atmospherically, locally, we will hear a rumble longer, and it's usually on days where the clouds are low and dense.
That's true. I wonder, you know what? I'm going to hazard a guess. I think it's because of altitude before distance. Because on launch days, you can sometimes, it depends on if it's windy or whatever, but sometimes you can hear launches from like like 100 miles, maybe not 100 miles, but like maybe 50 miles or so up or down the coast, you can hear it. But you're not that far down. Well, maybe you. I don't know. I'm gonna
I don't
backtrack
know
and I'll
either.
say I'm questioning myself. That's a really good question. We'll have to look into that.
I put it on a list to talk with some audio engineer friends of mine, and I'll report back because I'm curious about this. That's a good question.
Nice. Hey, Stephen Billings as well. 5 curly L's. Are any of the other landings this weekend going to be on land? Aha.
Yes. So
Ooh.
the Vandenberg launch will have a return to launch site landing at landing zone 4. The other Cape Canaveral launch, the Global Star mission, will be a drone ship landing on Just Read the Instructions.
Excellent. So we'll be covering that live from Vandenberg. Is that tomorrow? That is tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow
That's
morning
tomorrow.
is the Vandenberg launch.
How time
And then
flies.
very late tomorrow evening / Sunday morning is Global Star.
Excellent. I should know because I'm supposed to be clicking the buttons for that one too. But anyways,
I believe so. So
I'll look it up this evening and then I'll be like, okay, here's what time I have to wake up tomorrow. And then one more from Rosen Devasto. 8 minutes in space, 8 hours in a car. Anybody? Anybody?
I mean, I'm pretty sure rockets are a little bit faster than a car, so I'm not sure if that ratio is quite correct. But
Yeah, I don't
appreciate
understand.
the
Like,
support.
if there were suborbital flights where you were like, oh, here's a suborbital flight, and I need to fly from, honestly, the Cape to Charlotte, North Carolina. It takes me around 8 hours to drive from my
But
house to the Cape.
Okay.
that could lead to.
Go ahead, Julia. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say that almost sounds like a Blues Brothers kind of a reference,
There you go. Maybe that's what it was. Anyways, y'all, thank y'all for all the super chats there. Again, we can't say thank you enough. It's always a balance. We don't want to make the entire broadcast just about reading super chats, and we don't want to be constantly thank you, and we miss a bunch of the questions and stuff. But we really do appreciate y'all supporting what we do. There's lots of different ways you can support what we do. We've also got the cool merch shop. Check out shop.nasaspaceflight.com. We just released some metal prints. Nick, I think you're involved with these, right?
Yes. Oh, the metal prints. Oh my gosh. All the metal prints are amazing. Not just because of the pictures. I guess the pictures are all right, but like the metal prints are amazing. As a guy who's been looking for like decent prints for a long time, I'm impressed. I have one hanging up on my wall right now, and like it is a good quality print. So if y'all are looking for awesome pictures of awesome flamey sticks, highly recommend the prints there.
Nice. Let's get a link into chat over there. If one of the mods could put in a shop or just exclamation point shop, head on over to the shop if you want to check out those cool metal prints that we've added to the shop. And Nick, being a little humble there, some of the shots on those metal prints were actually taken by Mr. Nick himself. That's why he was like, well, I guess they're okay.
Well, they are kind of okay, but it's the print I was worried about.
As always, fantastic work out there. Both Nick and Mary are Starbase photographers, taking fantastic imagery, sharing what's going on, and a lot of the times it's cool enough to put on your wall and spruce up that plain white wall you've got. Let's see here. Do we have time for another couple questions that we can run through here? Thomas, are y'all going to have to pack up? What's y'all's schedule
let's do like one or two.
Okay. 1 or 2 more questions. Nick, get 1 or 2 more questions here for us. We always run out of time with the questions.
Okay. Let's see. I have a few in queue from like 30 minutes ago, so I guess we're just gonna go with that. Sorry, I haven't been monitoring it lately. But let's see. Oh boy. Let's see. All right. Don asks, will SpaceX use core boosters more than 10 times? Will they launch to failure of a core booster or just to find the limit?
That's one of those questions that's like, huh.
Yeah.
We don't know. Like SpaceX
Yeah.
has they don't like put out things that say, oh, here's this, that, or the other. Elon will tweet sometimes. But what the exact plans are to launch to failure of a core booster to try to find the limit, we haven't. I don't know that we've seen that lately. At least they haven't hit a failure yet. But it's just one of those things where SpaceX doesn't clearly broadcast exactly what their specific plans are, unless Elon gets on Twitter and tweets about it. And really quickly here, we've got confirmation via Twitter, it looks like, that the deployment of the 53 Starlink satellites has been confirmed by SpaceX over there on Twitter. So that sort of wraps up the mission. We all sort of hang out there and are like, okay, that's awesome. It landed. Amazing. We had footage of the entire thing. That's so cool. And then we say, oh, the second stage, good. MECO, or SECO, the engine shut down. It looks like it's in the orbit. But until the payload gets separated there, it's never like cheers and champagne in mission control. Actually, in SpaceX mission control, it seems like it's just another day at the office. But getting that confirmation that they've been deployed is always sort of the purpose of the day when we're launching rockets, right?
Yep.
All right.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think that'll wrap up today's launch, though, with another successful deployment of Starlink satellites. And that sets the stage again. That is the beginning of a very busy weekend. Next up is a Falcon 9 launch from Vandenberg tomorrow morning.
All right. And of course, we will be here for that, y'all. We'll be streaming it live. We've got some cameras headed out that way, including one of Michael's fancy robotic tracking cameras that we put together. We'll be trying some RTLS tracking tomorrow, and I think he'll be out there like managing it locally so that we can get a little bit more data on that tracking software that he uses. But real quick, hey, Roseanne Devasto, that was an observation, not a question. I guess just saying it takes 8 minutes to go up the coast in a rocket and 8 hours to go up the coast or down the coast in a car.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I thought it was a song reference that I was missing.
It could have been. It could have been. Plutonium 239, thank you as well. And then Fortitude Valence. So awesome. Go Elon. Appreciate the curly L's there, Fortitude. Thank you for the support. But real quick, thanks to everybody who was out in the field today. Julia Bergeron, hope you got some good shots and enjoyed the launch. Thank you for rolling out.
It was my pleasure to be here, and we're wildlife watching right now as well. So I just want to say thank you to our members, our subscribers, our sponsors, and all of you who retweet and support us, because it means a lot to me and enables me to do fun things.
Absolutely. You can find Julia over there on Twitter for some of her photography at Julia Bergeron. Get the link over in chat for her, if we could. Also out today, Mr. Thomas Berghardt. Thomas, news director for NASASpaceflight. Thank you so much for rolling out.
Always a pleasure, Das. Good to be back here on the Space Coast and looking forward to the busy weekend ahead. Thank you all so much for tuning in and letting us share this launch with y'all.
All right, Thomas, you can find over on Twitter at TGMetsFan96. We get that link over to chat as well. It's the easiest thing to do is click on it. Steve, not on comms, but Steve was out as well. Mr. Stephen Marr, Space Coast Steve. Be on the lookout for his Twitter, because he takes some awesome shots of those rockets as they take off. He's going to be at SpaceCoast_STVE over on Twitter. Clickable link in chat, please. And back in the studio, Nick, what'd you think? Nick and Sweeney, how'd you do today?
Oh my goodness, I'm just so excited for orange rocket bells. That is all I'm excited about. Still mesmerized about that.
I like it.
Thanks for having me, all.
We need an orange rocket bell good shirt, maybe.
I think we need to get on that.
All right. Of course, Nick, one of the photographers out there at Starbase. You can find him on Twitter as well, at Nick and Sweeney. And lastly here, did I get everybody else? Make sure that I did. I think I did.
Didn't
All
get
right.
yourself.
I know. I just got to make sure you get everybody else before you bother with yourself. I'm John Galloway for NASASpaceflight. If you're watching me over on Twitch, you may know me as DOS, but that's going to end our live coverage of the Starlink 419 launch of the 53 internet satellites today out from the Cape. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll see you later, nerds. Thanks for watching.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
Our EDT repression looks good. Toggling up. Roger rolling with Linus.
Water towers fly!
Tango Delta nominal.
Flight downside SCE off. Say again, SCE off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.